Are you muted? I don't know. Okay. Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We're continuing on Masechet Berachot, and we are on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Bet 57b, one line before the white lines. We're still continuing a few more lines about the topic of dreams, and then we're going to go back to our regular ninth perek topic, perek haroem, things that you see and you need to make a bracha. So says the Gemara, Shisha dvarim mrapeim et hachole mecholio v'refuato refuah ve'elu hen. The six things that are good for a sick person and the refuah that they have, it's a real refuah. It's something that actually works. It's not just for a short time. And these are them: kiruv v'taradin, v'sisinia v'shin, cabbage and beets and dry mint, v'keva v'heret. One of the stomachs of the BMI is called the keva. Heret is the uterus. V'yoteret hakaved is the diaphragm. V'yesh omrim, and there are those who say add a seventh item, and that is dagim ketanim, small fish, which means the fish that are in their nature, they're small. They never grow to a large size like sardines. Velo od, and not only that, elash dagim ketanim mafrinu marbin, they're good for priya v'rivya as well. Kol gufo shel adam, they umavrin kol gufo shel adam, they make you healthy in all parts of your body. Says the Gemara, there are 10 items, 10 things that bring back the sickness of a sick person. And it becomes even worse than it was originally in the beginning. Says the Gemara, these are them. Ha'ochel basar shor, someone that eats basar shor, meat from an ox, a cow, basar shamen, fatty meat, basar sali, roasted meat, basar tziporim, the flesh from birds, ubetzas luya, roasted egg, v'tiglachat, means getting a haircut, v'shachalai v'achalav v'agvina v'amerchatz, all of these, even milk and even cheese and go taking a shower, all of these are things that make you go back to sickness if you're not healed properly, and it becomes worse than what it was before. Basically, as far as eating is concerned, no meat, no milk, no dairy. You have to become a vegan, right? And even taking a haircut and taking a shower would be difficult, I guess, maybe perhaps because when you come out, the change of temperature, whatnot, you could explain this with your doctors together. But says the Gemara, v'yesh omrim, and there are those who add in the list af egozim, even walnuts and so on. V'yesh omrim af kishuim, there are those who say in the list has to include also the kishuim, which is cucumbers. Says the Gemara, about kishuim, about cucumbers, Tana de Rabbi Ishmael, lama nikra shema kishuim. Why are they called kishuim? Mipnei shehem kashim leguf kecharavot, because they are difficult, they're bad for your health. Kecharavot, like swords. Gemara says, what? Any ba'ketiv? Didn't we learn Vayomer Hashem la'shnei goyim bebitnech, when Rivka Imenu he was conflicted, and she saw that the pregnancy was strange, because when she would go by a bet avodah zarah, the baby would kick. She would go by bet midrash, the baby would kick. So she went to a navi, to Shema Vever, to see what's happening with the pregnancy, and they said, Shnei goyim bebitnech. Hashem told her, the navi told her, you have two nations in your stomach. Al tikre goyim, we darshin, don't read goyim, nations, but geim, shene geim bevitnech. There are two aristocrats. Ve'amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. You know who this is a prophecy for? Elu Antoninos veRebbi. The round two of the two sons of Rivka, Esav and Yaakov did not work really well together, but what was meant to be by Esav and Yaakov happened with Rebbe and Antoninos. That Antoninos was the Ketzar of Rome, was the Roman emperor, and Rebbe was the Nasi, and they were best of friends. Antoninos would come, the Gemara says that Avodah Zarah would come every day to learn with Rebbeinu HaKadosh, and he would give him riches, money, tremendous relationship they had. And Rebbe was so rich, and of course Antoninos, those are the two people, Shlo Pasak Mishulchanam, Lo Tznon V'lo Chazeret V'lo Kishuin Lo Bimot, HaChacham V'lo Bimot HaKeshamim. They always had all the delicacies, all the good stuff, even those who are most seasonal, and you wouldn't have them outside the season. They had them provided for them in all seasons of the year, and one of those is kishuim, one of them is cucumbers. So how can it be that Rebbe and Antoninos, they were praised by something that's so bad for the body? It can't be. It must be something very good that this wealthy individuals had, and they're praised by. So says Gemara, correct. Lo kasha, still is not a question, because there are two different types of cucumbers. You have haberavravi, habezutri. The small ones are good, the large ones are bad. Tan Rabbanan, met bebayit shalom bebayit. If you see in your dream a dead person that came to your house, meaning someone, a deceased individual, you see them in a dream that they are alive and they're in your house, shalom bebayit, it's good. It's a sign of peace in the house. Achal v'shata, and if you see them come to your house and also eat and drink, amazing. That's even better. Siman yafeh lebayit. It's a good sign. Natan kelim min habayit. If he takes stuff from your house, siman rab lebayit. That already is a bad sign. Tirgma Rapapa, and Rapapa said, not everything is bad. You know what's considered a bad sign? If they take only shoes. If they come to your home and they take out shoes from your house, that's a bad sign. All the other things they take out, that's fine. Says the Gemara, Kol the Shakil, Shchava Mali, Barmi Mesana. Anything that a dead person in your dream, you see them take out of your house, is good, aside from shoes. Called the Yayiv Shchava Mali Bar Me'afra V'chardela. And anything that they give you in your dream is good, aside from dirt and mustard seeds, because they're also like dirt. Because that already is showing that, Chas v'shalom, of course, the deceased person is buried under the dirt. So if they're giving you dirt in your dream, that's not a good sign. Says the Gemara, Makom shnekra mimenu. Now we're back to our original topic of discussion of the 9th perek of things that you see, which you have to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu for. Perek haroeh. We're back to our Mishnah. Makom, we learned Makom shnekra mimenu avodat gilulim, that if you see a place that used to have idol worship, and now that has been uprooted from the land, you make a bracha. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned, Haroem Markolis, Omer Baruch Shenatan Er Chapayim Leovre Resono. If you see the Avodah Zarah, the idol called Markolis, you make this bracha, Baruch Ata Hashem, you make a bracha, Shenatan Er Chapayim Leovre Resono. That Hashem waits for people to do tshuva. He is patient, he's Er Chapayim, even for people who are going against his will. Now, Markolis was a specific Avodah Zarah. Of course, you have to understand there was a period of time that the majority of the world were of the Avodah Zarah. You go to India right now, and there's so many cults, 700, 800 different, worshiping cults, which most of them are considered Avodah Zarah straight out, and It used to be a time that the world was like that. Rambam writes that the Arabs, it's very actually interesting. He says Muslims en be'emunatam shum dofi. Rambam says Muslims are not considered of the avodah zarah. They have a perfectly fine monotheist belief. They believe in one Hashem, right? Allahu Akbar, and they believe in oneness of Hashem. But says Rambam, there's a history behind it. Right now, Rambam says there's no problem with it. He goes, it's mutar to walk in the mosque because is not considered a bet avodah zarah and all that. But he says historically speaking, they used to serve 3 different avodah zarahs. What you call Arab origins before Islam came. And one of them was Marcolis. One of them was this avodah zarah, which was a statue. And the way you served it was, again, the regular way of serving avodah zarah would be they would go and shecht things for them. I bring sacrifices. But then you had avodah zarahs that they had specific way of serving them. Baal was a pretty distasteful avodah that had to go and reveal themselves and relieve themselves. It was a pretty, interesting type of service. But Marcolis, you would have to go and throw stones at them at the avodah zarah. That was the way you did avodah zarah to this specific idol. So Rambam says the Arab nations prior to Islam, they had 3 avodah zarahs. They had Marcolis, they had Baal, and they had Peor, right? So Peor is the one who said, relieve yourself. But Marcolis, he says, even right now, and I think it still probably is in practice, there's a specific place that you go throw stones. So Rambam says, now they say you're throwing this stone to Satan, which is, a great thing. He said, no problem with that because they have redefined it and there's no problem with the practice they have right now. But the minhag was there from the time of the service of Marcolis. So the Gemara talks about the avodah zarah of Marcolis, but it doesn't necessarily mean only Marcolis. Any avodah zarah that you see, if you see Baal Peor, you make the same bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu waits and is patient with even people who go against his will. So makom shnekra mimenu avodat kochavim. If you go to a place that used to be a place of idol worship and now it's no longer, Omer Baruch Shakarakum Ma'artzenu. You make a bracha that avodat kochavim has been uprooted from our land, right? This is in Eretz Yisrael. Uchshem shnekra mimakom zeh, and just like it has been uprooted from this place, ken te'aker mikol mekomot Yisrael. It should also be uprooted from all the other places of Israel. There should not be an influence for the Jewish nation. It shouldn't be like the pasuk says, "Vayit'arevu b'goyim v'yilmedu mimasehem." When you get mixed with the goyim, by default you learn from their actions, their customs. So therefore, we want it to be uprooted from all places that the Jews reside. And you continue, "Be'ashev levovdehem leovdecha," and return the heart of the avodah zarah idol worshippers leovdecha, that they should serve you instead of being fooled after idols. Ubechutz la'aretz en tzarich lomar. In outside Eretz Yisrael, you don't need to say "Be'ashev levovdehem leovdecha." You don't have to say that the avodah zarah should return to serve Hashem. Because the majority are of the kochavim anyways, so you don't need to daven for them. The Shlomo says, "Af bechutz la'aretz harich lomar ken." Says no. In chutz la'aretz also you have to say it. Why? Because we are hoping that Bezrat Hashem, everyone is going to come to realize the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and stop serving avodah zarah, and therefore you daven for them. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, "Az epoch el amim safa berura." Hashem says, "I will, reverse the nations that they do avodah zarah. All of them would be serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu." Darash Rab Hamnuna. Haroeh Bavel Arsha'ah, Rav Hamnuna Darshan, if you see the area of Bavel, what used to be Bavel Arsha'ah in the time of Nebuchadnezzar, in other words, the government, the country that destroyed the Beit HaMikdash under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar Harasha, Sarich Levarech Chamesh Berachot. You will say 5 different brachot. How so? Ra Bavel, when you see Bavel, that area, just seeing the area, you say Baruch She'echriv Bavel Arsha. Say a blessing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroyed Bavel. In other words, as Hashem had promised that the government that destroys Beit HaMikdash at the end will be destroyed, when you see Bavel that was basically decimated by the Persian Empire, and afterwards it basically became a government that was never important in the world, but you have to understand that Bavel was the superpower of the world, hands down, period. They had the strongest army, the strongest everything, right? You're talking about their knowledge, their technology, their force, their army. It was on top of the world. And then it became a nothing. It was not just destroyed physically, but it was completely kicked off of the map of important places in the world. It was given to the Persian Empire, and afterwards went basically under the rule of the Greeks and the Romans, and hand to hand from one nation to another, always subordinated to others. So it says the Gemara, when you see Babel, you say bracha, she'echliv Babel arsha. Hashem destroyed Babel. Rabbi Toshan Nebuchadnezzar. This must have had a good tour. I'm not sure if they're available now, but if you see the house, the palace of Nebuchadnezzar, then you make a second bracha. You say Baruch she'echliv Toshan Nebuchadnezzar arasha. A specific bracha for the person that destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. You make a bracha that he destroyed HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroyed the house of the Nebuchadnezzar arasha, right? Because where is he now? Nothing. It got destroyed. And where is Am Yisrael that he wanted to destroy is still alive and well. This is a story, a reminiscent of a story that the Panovich Rav, Rabbi Shlomo Kahneman, who was a magnificent builder of Torah after the war, and he was a tremendous fundraiser. He would go all over the place, and he was visiting Rome. So in a rainy night before his flight back, he calls his driver. He says, "Come right now." He says, "It's raining. No one is going to give money right now." I was like, "What are you doing?" He says, "No, come." He comes in, and he sees Rav Shlomo Kahneman is wearing his Bigdei Shabbat. He's like top clothing, and he says, "It's late. Where are you going?" He says, "Take me to Ark of Titus, right? Titus, Yimach Shemo, who destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. There's this arch that they have still standing. It's a tourist attraction. It used to be the gates of Rome. Now it's in the side, But you still have you've seen the famous picture of the Jews carrying the menorah and Klei Beit HaMikdash into Rome as slaves. So he goes there and stands. He says, "Titus." He yells his name a few times. Says, "Where are you?" He says, "Look at you. Look at us. You are but a page in history, and we're still standing here, a thriving nation on top of the science, and Torah is flourishing, and so on and so forth. Am Yisrael, the Nesach Yisrael Loish." I guess that's basically what it says over here. That you see the destruction of the house of Nebuchadnezzar, you make a bracha. Ra'a, Gov Shel Arayot, Okiv Shana Esh. If you see the pit of lions that they had in Babylonia, that Daniel was thrown into it. It's a whole magnificent story, how the Belshazzar, the history of Daniel. Daniel was the most beloved advisor of Nebuchadnezzar and his son and his grandson. And he, being the top advisor and being a Jew, he created a tremendous level of jealousy in his peers in the palace. And they tried every which way to try to get him into trouble. And one time they actually were successful to bend the will of the king and force him into throwing Daniel into Gov Shel Arayot, into the pit of lions, the enclosure of hungry lions. And that's the famous story that they put Daniel there, and they came tomorrow morning. The king came running because he was hoping against hope that Daniel is still alive. He loved him. And they open, they see he's sitting there doing Amud Yomi, and the lions are listening. He's giving a shiur, and then they're sitting on the side, like guarding him. And this guy that actually had said Lashon Hara on him, he said, must be somebody fed the lions. They're not hungry, otherwise, this doesn't make sense. So the king really didn't pick up. He gave him what he deserved. So, let's try it. Right? They took Daniel out, they put him in. And the pasuk says before he got halfway through, they jumped up and they tore him to pieces, and so on. So that's the nes of Gof Shel Arayot. So you see, if that apparently that Gof Shel Arayot was still in place, they knew where it was, not necessarily with the lions in it, but that place that the nest of Gof Shel Arayot happened. If you see it, then you make a bracha. And also Kivshan Ha'esh, the furnace of fire, that the nest of Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah happened. So again, that is Nebuchadnezzar built a magnificent, massive structure of a statue. It's Machloket Rishonim, Tosafot and Rambam, whether or not this in Masechet Ketubot in Daf Lamed, the Tosafot says something very amazing. The Tosafot says Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, that they opted to be thrown into Kivshan Ha'esh, and of course we know they didn't burn, it was a miracle. It says if they would torture them, they would lash them and torture them, they would bow to it. So it becomes Machloket Rishonim. How in the world is that possible? Rabbi Akiva, we're just going to have very soon, under no torture he gave in. Other people, under no torture, they gave in. Right? But Rabbi Akiva may not be a good example because he didn't have a choice really. But we know many people, smaller people, much ordinary people, that they didn't give in. So many Rishonim hold that this was not the Avodah Zarah. It was just a statue for kavod. It was not meant for worship. But nevertheless, Nebuchadnezzar called everybody to come, and they were to bow in front of this statue to pledge their allegiance, so to speak, to the king and to the emperor. And he knew, by the way, there's another thing that he bent. He knew that Daniel is not going to bow. So he sent Daniel away on a mission to a different place, that he shouldn't be put into this situation and then get into trouble. So Daniel was not there. But Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, they're the three only people who everyone went down, and there's three people are standing. And they threw them in the Kivshan Ha'esh, and then the Malach came in and cooled on the fire. It was the nest, and of course they went back to the service of the king. So if you see that area, that place of Kivshan Ha'esh or Gof Shel Arayot of Daniel, then you say the classic bracha that the Perek started with. You say Baruch Sha'asa Nisim La'avotenu B'makom Hazeh. A nest happened in this place for our fathers, and that is the bracha that we learned in the beginning of the Perek. So says the Gemara, Ra Amar Kolis, Omer Baruch Shenatan Erech Hapayim Le'ovrei Resono. If you see Markolis, you say this bracha of Hashem giving Erech Hapayim, being patient with people who go against His will. Ra Makom Shenotlin Mimenu Afar. If you see a place in Bavel, so again, Bavel had the Avodah Zarah. Bavel was Markolis. So if you see the actual statue, you say that bracha. And the final bracha is if you see the place that they take afar from it. Now, this is machloket, what exactly this means. The two main perushim is there was a place that supernaturally, if you would have a behemah go there, an ox, a donkey, they would not come out of that place unless you put some of the dirt of that place on them, then they would go out. Or this was a place that was completely desolate. No one lived there, nothing grew there. The only large area, and the only usage of that area was they would take dirt out of that place to make bricks for building other countries and others. It was an export of bricks, basically, material that was dirt, right? So that is a sign of destruction because nobody lives there. And not only that, you take dirt from there, you destroy that place to build other places. That's the destruction 101, basically. So you make a specific bracha, you say, Baruch Omer V'Oseh Hashem. Like you say in Baruch Shana, Baruch Omer V'Oseh Baruch Gozer Kayev. Hashem made the gezerah that this Bavel, who was a flourishing, super empire of the world, now has become a place that other countries use its desolate and destruction in order to build their own cities and countries. So says the Gemara, Rava, ki hava chazi chamari de shakli afram. Rava, when he saw donkeys that would be loading dirt and taking out of this place in Bavel, tarif neuyada, he would pat them in the back, and he would say, you're tzaddikim, you're doing the will of Hashem because you're helping in this process of destruction of Bavel to build other places. Fine. Says the Gemara, the son of Ravina, when he would visit Bavel, he would take a little bit of the dirt from Bavel, and he would go, when he on the way out, he would throw it out to establish and do the pasuk that says, which by the way is the backbone of this whole thing, of why you see that the Bavel was to be destroyed. Hashem says, I will broom and sweep out the Bavel with the broom, so to speak, of destruction. That means I'll sweep it clean from any greatness that it has, Hashem says, after they destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi said, very interesting. I didn't know this teaching of Rav Hamnuna that you must say 5 brachot when you come to Bavel. When you encounter these things, you make a bracha. But I said all 5 brachot from my own. Apparently, he took a tour of a great tour guide of Bavel, and he went and he saw the house of Nebuchadnezzar, the Gof Shel Arayot, and the Kivshan, and all that. He said, I made all those brachot. Now, some of the Farshim say that this must be without bracha, because if you don't know the teaching of Rav Hamnuna, how can you say that? It means he said the bracha, I blessed Hashem without Shem Malchut, but be that as it may, he said, I made all these 5. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Elazar, Nitkalu Bavel, Nitkalu Shechenea. When Bavel was cursed, it wasn't just Bavel. Oile Rasha, Oile Shecheno. Woe is to the Rasha, woe is to his neighbor. So all the neighboring areas of Bavel also were cursed. Nitkalu Shomron Badineres Yisrael. When Shomron, which was the place of Shvatim, was the place that a lot of sins happened there. When Shomron was cursed and was destroyed, Nitbarchu Shechenea. The surrounding areas, the neighboring cities, they became blessed. Now, what's the difference? The difference is Bavel, it was the goyim that they sinned, and it was real destruction that was decreed upon them, and therefore, when they were cursed, it's a real rasha, oil rasha, oil shkeno. Whenever you have rasha, it doesn't affect just himself. It happens to affect anyone that's in contact or neighboring him. But by Shomron was not that. By Shomron, Hashem wanted to give a sign, a hint to the Jews. So it wasn't oil rasha, oil shkeno. It was a sign for them to do tshuva only, and you want to be specific. Do you see the difference? That is only this place. I want you to see it, and I want you to do tshuva. So therefore, all of the neighboring cities actually were blessed, were nitbarchu kol shechenea, to make the contrast much more clear and to create room for tshuva. Says the Gemara, how do you know? Dichtiv v'samtia lemorash kafud v'agame mayim, that it became, says the Gemara, it became desolate, the place, and it became an area of marshes, agamim, that no person lives, and everything is destroyed. But from the fact that you see Shomron was destroyed, but its neighboring cities were built, how do you know that in the pasuk? Says the Gemara, nitbarchu shechenea dichtiv, as it says in the pasuk, Samti Shomron le'iyeh sadeh lemit'eh kerem. that Shomron is no longer going to be residential, but you know what's going to be? It's going to be vineyards and fields for other people. In other words, neighboring people, they're going to have their vineyard there. They're going to have their fields there. So they are being blessed by Shomron not being a settlement, being a place of living. So it says the Gemara. V'amar Rav Hamnuna, if you see multitudes of people, we're going to know soon what multitudes is, what number it is, a large number, as we're going to see. When you see large gatherings of Israel, you make a bracha, Baruch Chacham Arazim. Blessed is Hashem, who is Chacham Arazim. He knows all the secrets. Why? Why do you make that bracha? Because, as we're going to see, every person has a different idea, has a different mindset. You put 600,000 Jews in the room, you'll have 6 million different ideas, right? And Hashem knows all the secrets of every one of their hearts. That's Baruch Chacham Arazim, right? Hashem knows what goes on in the heart of every single individual. So says the Gemara, if you see the multitudes of idol worshipping individuals, you say your mother should be embarrassed. This is the descendants of the Avodah Zarah. What's the future for them? It's an embarrassment. So says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Haro'eh uchlosei Yisrael omer Baruch Chacham Arazim. When you see multitudes of Israel, you make a bracha of Chacham Arazim. She'en datam. Why? Because she'en datam domeh ze lazeh. Because no person's mindset, thoughts, opinions, ideas is identical with another one. Everyone is literally different. Ve'en parsufen domim ze lazeh, and their looks are different. No two people are exactly alike. Even identical twins, their parents never, hopefully, mix them with each other. They're different. Their fingerprints are different. Even identical twins have different prints. So their bodies are different. Their looks are different. Their minds are different. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows all of it.
Why is it limited to Israel?
Well, no, it's not limited to Israel.
It says if you see.
No, that's because it's a manifestation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kavod in the world, and therefore it matters their mindsets and so on. But if you have a person that is Obed Avodah Zarah, he's literally worshiping idols, which is the Chazon Ish explains this. It's a beautiful thing. Chazon Ish is trying to explain a Mishnah of why you are moridin velo ma'alin. When you have an Obed Avodah Zarah, it seems like they have forfeited the rights to a real life. And Chazon Ish explains because the creation of man on earth has been for a purpose of revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's existence in the world. That's our primary job to find out, to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A monotheist belief is the core of existence of human beings on this earth. So a person that has forfeited that, a person that has not come to that, he's not fulfilling the very basic elements of existence of human beings. So you don't even talk about that. It's just musha, it's chaval. It's such a it's a waste of a human being. What it could be, and what it is, it's so far apart that you don't even talk about their purpose. That's the. So says the Gemara. Ben Zruma, this is the first wide line now. Ben Zruma uchlusa al gab ma'ala be'ar habayit. Ben Zruma saw we just saw, if you see Ben Zruma, you should be at Tzapeh LaChochma, right? So he saw a large multitude of Am Yisrael from on top of Har HaBayit, and he said this bracha, Baruch Chacham Arazim. And he also made the bracha, Baruch Shebara Kol Elu L'Shamesheni. Look at the bracha that we have by having communities. Kol Elu, people are there, L'Shamesheni, to serve to serve me. Now you'll see how beautiful this bracha is. Hu haya omer, Ben Zoma always said, Kama yegiot yaga Adam HaRishon. Imagine to yourself how the life of Adam HaRishon was. For just having a little piece of bread to eat. You know what he had to do? He had to do all this lamatet melachot, basically. The 11 melachot of At. He had to plow and plant, charash v'zara v'katzaya, to harvest, v'amar v'dash v'zara, u'birer v'takan v'hirkit v'lash v'afa. All of those melachot he had to do until he had a little piece of bread. He had to do all of them himself. There's nobody else in the world. Only then he could eat. And I get up in the morning and I have a baker and I have everything ready for me. I just buy the bread and I have it. Now think about making a piece of garment to wear a clothing. Adam HaRishon, beged lilbosh, a little piece of garment to wear. He had to be gazaz, v'liben, v'nipes, v'tava, v'arag. All of those things he had to do in order to have a garment. I get up in the morning. It's cause for bracha, for blessing, that we have a world that has a system with people working and with people helping each other, to have a community that has all of these things ready. Every person does one element of the society and everyone helps each other. That's cause for bracha, said Ben Zuma. Right? Now, you'll see Ben Zuma's idea was appreciation of little details that other people don't appreciate. This is something we don't think about. But once you start thinking about it, it's correct. Imagine having to do everything yourself, building a house yourself, making a garment yourself, making the bread yourself, planting, plowing. Says the Gemara, Kol umot shoktot ubaot lepetach beti. And Rashi understands that Ben Zoma was a very rich person, and it says all these people come early in the morning to my house. I get up in the morning and everything is ready for me. He would say, in line with this attitude of gratitude that he promoted, he says, a good guest. What does he say? We're not talking about in front of the host, of course, but even behind the back of the host. You know what he says? He says, how good is this host? How much he worked hard for me. Look at what he had. Kama basar heavy, how much meat he brought. Kama yayin heavy, how much wine he brought. Right? Kama keluskaot heavy, how much baked goods he brought. Everything he did and he worked, it was all for me. I appreciate it. What does the bad guest say? You know what he says? He says, what did he do already? I just had a little roll, a little piece of bread. I didn't eat much. I actually made the statistical thing that everyone has a little bit extra. So one person comes there, you don't have to cook more for them. They did nothing extra. You add a little drink, a little food. Kol torach, it was the leftovers. I helped them actually. They had to trash less now, right? So they should thank me actually. They should be happy that they had such a chashuv guest, right? He worked only for his wife and his kids and nothing for me. Says the Gemara, on a good guest, the pasuk says, Zachor, ki taski pa'alo, asher shoru anashim, and it's a positive pasuk, and on a negative personality, on oreach ra, the pasuk says, lachen yir'u anashim. The pasuk says something very negative, that he's not going to have continuity in that way. Lachen yir'u anashim lo yireh kol chachmei lev. He won't have people around him, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we will continue this in the days to come.
All right. Rabbi, go through the beged portion. The beged portion.